anti-Semitism and hosted by Campaign for Truth. A little bit about our organization, Campaign for Truth and Eye on Anti-Semitism here in the UK. We counter anti-Semitism, Jewish hatred. We are pro-Israeli advocates. We've been working for the past 20 years or so in order to counter the narrative of people who are anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, resulting in either legal implications or we actually make sure that we platform people, which we're going to be doing tonight, to talk about anti-Semitism in a way that they've experienced personally. So over to you, Sharon.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sharon from Campaign for Truth. Ambrosine and I work together, as she explained to you, and we're introducing tonight Tuvia Tenenbom. Tuvia is famous, or some might say notorious, for exposing anti-Semitism, and his latest book is called The Taming of the Jew. Before he starts, it's available on Amazon. If you go to the chat, you will find a link to that.
Right here.
So we're saying to Tuvia that he wrote this book because he toured the UK for about 6 months. But who is Tuvia? We'd like to know. So Tuvia, please take over and tell the audience who you are and how you got to start exposing anti-Semitism.
First of all, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everybody who has come to this webinar. And good evening to you, all of you are in London, in the UK today. I am at the moment in New York, in the Upper East Side. For us now, it's afternoon, just after 3 p.m. And again, thank you all for coming. As Sharon said, my name is Tuvia Tenenbom. The book is The Taming of the Jew. This is the 5th book in a series. The main publisher of the books, the one who is doing the paying for those books to be done, is a publishing company in Berlin, in Germany, called Surkamp Verlag, Surkamp, and they are one of the most elite publishers in Germany of our day and time. Like all the rest of the book, I am getting a commission to go to a country and to write about a country, spend there between 6 months to 8 months or so, traveling around and writing about it. This book is the same. All the other books, for example, I Sleep in Hitler's Room, Catch the Jew, The Lies He Tell, Hello Refugees. They are all books that have been offered to me, and I was asked, please go to Israel, or please go to Germany, come to Germany, or please come here, travel and find it. And after the 4th book, and my publisher asked me, what is the next book? So I said to myself, I have been writing quite some time about other countries, and I found so much anti-Semitism. I would like to change. I would like to write something not about anti-Semitism. I would like to write something about normal people. I'd like to write something about something exciting. And I said to myself, what could I do? And I remembered I'm also the artistic director of the Jewish Theater of New York, and I love theater. And many years ago already, every time when I really had a need for a good theater, to see good theater, I would up on a plane, land in London, and watch as many shows as I could, because I always believed that the theater in the English theater and the British theater is the best theater in the world. I have never found a theater better than that. So I said, okay, let me go and write a book about theater. And since it was also Brexit, I said, okay, I will write a book about theater and about Brexit, because Brexit is a historical moment. So let me go to the UK. And that's what I did. And they said, okay. And they paid me the money and they say, just go. And the way it works is very simple. I don't tell ahead of time what is the book about, because I don't know. And when I go to the country, I go with my wife, Izzy, and I go with a crew, with a team, to people with a camera and sound man, and I rent a car, and we drive, and we go. We never know where we'll sleep the next evening. So I said, okay, since it's going to be about Brexit, also I'll start in Dublin, I'll start in Ireland, so I can see the whole problem there with the border that might happen, if the Brexit comes in on the island of Ireland, between the North and the South, between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. So we arrived in Dublin, and my first interview, I went to the Brooks Hotel, and my first interview the next day was with a man I've never met before, and his name is Mike, and I say, Mike, I've never been in your country. Can you tell me a little bit about your country? I want to know. Teach me. What should I expect? And he said to me, okay, I'll tell you, we have a long history between the Unionists, Republicans, Protestants, Catholics. We have been killing each other and fighting each other and whatever, till we had the Good Friday Agreement. And he explained to me the whole thing, and I'm a good student, I'm listening to everything he said. And then he said, we are still fighting each other, there are still sometimes bombs flying around, but there is one thing we all agree on. And what is it all the Irish people agree on? He said, well, we are all anti-Israel, we are all anti-Jewish, and we call ourselves anti-Zionist, but this is what we are. And I'm just like, hello, again anti-Semitism? Again this Jew thing? It was like shocking to me all of a sudden. I mean, it's like, I am into theater. I want to know Brexit. It turns out the Brexit is not the most burning issue on the stove, is not Brexit. The burning issue on the stove is, how do we solve the problem of the Israeli occupation of Palestine? That's the issue. And that was frightening. So in the beginning, I thought, okay, I've just been unlucky enough to get this man that I never met before. And I went around. I met the Lord Mayor of Dublin. So we chat. He gave me nice cookies and very nice hospitalities, and he explained to me the whole thing as he fly the Palestinian flag for 30 days above City Hall, and above the mansion of the mayor. And then he told me about a great organization called Hamas. And then I went to the university, Trinity College. I spoke over there. I met the students' union leader. And he told me about the big campaign, ongoing campaign, ever and ever and ever. And what is it? BDS against Israel. And that's the way the story went on and on and on. From there I crossed, I saw the border, or what could be the border, went into Northern Ireland. And what do I see in Northern Ireland? I see Palestinian flags all over. I see this and I see that, and everybody's into Palestine. And what is this about? I have no idea, but this is what it is. And one point I went, for example, to a club, to a bar. It was in the afternoon. People who are not drunk, people who are very happy. They just start the bar day of today. They're still drinking soda or whatever it is. And then I sit there and I see a guy sitting next to me, and he has a beautiful bracelet. And on the bracelet, he says, "Free Palestine."
Let's see the
And
video.
then they tell me all kinds of amazing things about it's time to get rid of the Jews. And Hitler made one big mistake. He didn't get rid of all the Jews. If you have the video, I've sent you the video. If you have the video, you want to play it, you can play it now. And I'm sure you will understand the beautiful accent of the participants. Do we have that?
Yes, we're going with the video now. Just be patient, it's coming up in a minute.
Yeah.
Do we have the video, David? Can we see it?
I can hear the sound, I don't see the image.
Mm-mm. Okay,
David,
so
I hear the sound, I don't see the image.
Let me show you. have this solidarity with Palestine. What do you have to do with Palestinians in Delhi?
Okay, Tuvia,
Yeah.
Tuvia, while David's getting the image up, can you explain to the audience a little bit, because there'll be people in the audience who don't understand this connection between pro-Palestinian and anti-Semitism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, what is interesting, I mean,
Well, these things
some people say that there's a huge difference between, okay, now we see it, David?
the artists you think is
David, you have it.
No, carry on talking. He'll come on in a minute. He'll come on.
Okay, so, I mean, theoretically speaking, it should be two different issues. All
Yes.
Palestinians and anti-Semitism should not belong to each other. But what is interesting, and then that's what I find in the UK, almost in everywhere I went to, the issue of Palestine and the issue of anti-Semitism is one and the same. And I'll explain to you why. When I ask the people all across the UK, why is it the issue of Palestine so important to you? Is there something else that's important to you? Is it, for example, when I ask people, sometimes just on the street, is there anything that bothers you in life? Is there anything you'd like to change? I would expect to hear something about Brexit, about the EU, but no, it's about Palestine. So I asked the people, okay, I understand why you care about Palestine, it's very nice. Is there other issues you care about? For example, what the Chinese do to millions of Muslims in their country. They basically killing them, re-educating them in gulags. Do you know about it? Do you know what happened the war in Chechnya? The planes that were flying aircraft, bombing people and citizens, Muslims? No. Do you know what happened in Syria? Do you know what happens in Yemen? Do you know that Erdogan from Turkey imprisons innocent journalists? Many of them, hundreds of them, are in jail, rotting in jail. No. Is there any other issue in the world, and it's a big world out there, that bothers you? No, never heard about any other issue. It's only the issue of Palestine. And what's interesting, many of them don't even know where Palestine is. When I ask them a question, for example, how far, what's the distance between Palestine and Jerusalem, they have to go to Google to find out. They don't know the issue. I remember one day I was walking in the street with my team and I saw a young man walking, students, and I stop him and I say to him, I introduce myself, I say, my name is Ahmad, I'm Palestinian, and I'm from the Palestinian TV. Would you like to speak to my Palestinian brothers and sisters? And I point to the camera and he goes, cool. I mean, the guy doesn't even, it never even occurred to him that I don't exactly look like a Palestinian. He doesn't even know what a Palestinian looks like. And what does he say when he comes to the screen? The first thing he says, free Palestine. And then he apologizes to my Ahmed, brothers and sisters of Palestine, for not picking up arms in the fight against Israel, against the Jews. I mean, this is ridiculous. I've never seen a country like that. Everywhere I went, they have one issue, one thing bothers them, the existence of the state of Israel. And if we can see the movie, you'll see some of the explanation I got, what really, why does he really care about Palestine? Why does he go with bracelets of free Palestine?
Yes.
Because the Jews are the curse of the earth.
Right.
Okay, you can click play.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have here, you see, let me show you. You have this solidarity with Palestine. What do you have to do with Palestinians in Delhi?
I honestly don't know. Don't follow politics.
It's the first time you see it?
No, no.
You live it?
Yeah.
And you have Palestinian flags?
Yeah, many of the flags of many of the different things that half the people don't understand what the
No, but
flags are.
this is only Palestine.
Yeah.
You know anything about this? Nothing. You never asked.
Don't ask, don't ask.
Will these things be done by Catholic or by Protestants? What do you think?
By an artist.
By an artist. And the artist you think is Catholic or Protestant?
You don't judge.
That you don't judge. Okay. So this is a work of art.
Yes, well, someone has made it a work of art. Any statement, any piece of art is art.
May I ask you a question? Why do you have Palestinian flags over there? Why do you have Palestinian flags?
No idea.
You have no idea?
No, I have no idea.
You have your Palestinian flags. Why that?
Because Palestinian people are fighting for their freedom, and I kind of think it's, when we look back, we have come on so far in the past 40 years of peace process and stuff like that.
Do you also identify with other minorities like Kurds in Kurdistan, Chechens in Chechnya? Do you know anything about what happens in Chechnya? So how come you know only about Palestinians?
No, in saying that, I don't even know what the Palestinian Mars fight or anything, but I do know the fact that there's children being killed, things being bombed.
Who's killing them? Who's killing them?
Bombs and
Who?
bullets.
Who's throwing bombs at them?
I haven't a clue.
Who's killing the Palestinians?
You
You don't know?
haven't a clue. I kind of just.
Are the British killing the Palestinians?
There's a lot of things. No, I don't know. No.
So who's killing them?
I haven't a clue. I haven't a
You
clue.
know something, no? You know a little bit.
I don't know a little bit on saying
What's
that.
just the Jews? You mean.
Just
The
what you
Jews.
see on the TV.
Just the Jews. Right?
Yeah.
As far as I know, the Jews.
People here in the Bauxite having a friendly with the Palestinians, the Basques, the Catalans. Just basically, we
But you see, you know, basically what you see, there is long, big Palestinian thing over there. Palestinian flag here, Palestinian flag there, Palestinian flag there. A lot of us. So the majority of your sympathies go to Palestinians.
wouldn't say majority of us. No, it is a big thing because I mean, if you look at what's happening to the Palestinians, you know, I mean, they shoot them down like dogs.
Why is the Palestinian fight? Yes, why there's so many Palestinians? Because we support Palestine.
What do you think of Palestine?
We don't really know much about it. Just don't know what's going to happen. You know.
Are you for Maine or leave?
Stay.
What will happen if there is an Arab border here?
Pardon?
If there is an Arab border,
Our border?
yeah, will there be troubles again?
Yeah. Could be, yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of Palestinians back here. Why is that?
Do you support them?
Why do you support the Palestinians? Because what?
Because hit the fucking Jews.
You're talking about the Jews.
Yeah. Hitler raided the land too. Stole their land and killed their children.
From Palestine.
You only thing that Hitler didn't do wrong. The only thing Hitler didn't do wrong, he didn't kill no fucking Jews. Hitler didn't kill no Jews. They're scourge of the world.
What did you say?
The Jews are scourge of the earth.
The Jews of the Syrians.
Yeah.
Do you want to put with me another Palestinian flag together, you and I?
No.
No? Do you want to take it out, you and I?
No, all of us.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
your stay in Ireland anyway.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay. So
As you can see, the Jews are the scourge of the earth. That's why we support Palestine. And that theme, that idea repeated itself over and over and over across the UK, to a lesser degree in Wales, but it's in England, in Scotland, and in Northern Ireland, and of course in the Republic of Ireland as well. So that's basically the themes that repeated itself over and over and over again, is the Jews are basically the scourge of the earth, and they are our curse, and we should get rid of them. And that's what it is.
So Tuvia,
it's an amazing picture. It's an amazing picture. I remember one day I walked on the street and I saw 3 young students coming across, and I asked them a question I have never asked anybody in the world before. A question I never dreamt I would ask, just came out of me. And I said, excuse me, my dear friends, my dear new friends, can you tell me something? At what age exactly did you realize your love for Palestine? What is it? Were you born with this love? Was it when you were 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever? At one day, did you get up in the morning and say, wow, I really care for Palestine? And surprisingly enough, they took it as a serious question, as a valid question, and they started thinking about it. And they answered me, like one says, oh, to me it happened when I was 14 years of age. It's like everybody had another difference. You know, it's like, at what age? They started falling in love with Palestine and hating the Israelis and the Jews, basically. It's an amazing thing. But what is more amazing, what is more frightening, to me at least, was to see the reaction of the Jewish community. The reaction of the Jewish community, and I regard it as the most tamed Jewish community in the world, basically, as they refuse to condemn the anti-Semitism. People who are MPs or lords would not say for the record, when I videoed them, anything against Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, even The Guardian, which is not known as a Jew-loving or Israel-loving media, basically said that what Jeremy Corbyn is doing at the time was anti-Semitism. But the Jews refused to say it. Even you took like MPs, like Luciana Berger, as long as she was either as a Labour member of Parliament, she didn't open her mouth. When she realized she's losing the war, she's losing basically her spot, she's going to be deselected, she's out of Labour. That's when she started raising the flag of anti-Semitism. Where was she before? Margaret Hodge, who is pretending now to be on the Israeli side. For months and months, when I was in Britain, her home page, Margaret Hodge, MP, on the first page, on the home page, there was a letter she wrote to her constituents. What was it about? About the NHS? About Brexit? About the EU? No. It was about Israel and Gaza. The criminal attacks of Israel, violating the human rights of the Palestinians in Gaza. And the Israelis and Israel should be brought to international law and court for what they are doing. Only after I pointed it to one of the Jewish leaders in London, when he said to me, look, Margaret Hodge is on our side, I said to him, what are you talking about? Did you ever see Margaret Hodge's homepage? And I told him, he said, it's impossible. So he opened the computer and he saw it. And he said, I can't believe that she does it. Let me call her. I'll call her about it. So obviously he called her. That evening, the whole thing, the whole homepage, the whole internet site went down. In the book, you'll see I took a screenshot of the page and it still existed. I mean, the Jewish leaders. There was a story with the Church of Scotland, for example, if you remember. They issued a report years and years ago, the Inheritance of Abraham, in which it said that the Jews, biblically speaking, is not a unique people, and biblically speaking, Palestine, Israel, does not belong to the Jews. I interviewed the leaders of the Scottish Church. And the excuse was one, number two, top from the Church of Scotland, told me, what do you, he basically said, well, what do you want from me? The chief rabbi came to our assembly and he talked to us. He is not upset with us. So I said to myself, okay, let me talk to the chief rabbi and see what he says. Guess what? The chief rabbi refused to talk to me. I met him the other day in London. And I said, Rabbi Marvin, why don't you want to talk to me? And you know what he said to me? Very very diplomatic. He said, I said, Rabbi Marvin, why? Can't we meet? I need you to answer some questions. Would you meet me? That's what he answered. That was it. Rabbi Sachs refused to meet me. His secretary said he will not meet Tuvia. I mean, you couldn't even call to account to these people, the leaders of the Jewish community. It was sad. I met Andrew Stone, Lord Andrew Stone. I met him in the House of Commons, in the House of Lords, sorry. I tried to ask him questions. He's a Labour peer to explain to me what he thinks about the anti-Semitism in Labour Party and the anti-Semitism in Britain nowadays. And he said to me, if this is the way you take the conversation, I'm ending right now. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to discuss this. So I changed my question to him. I said, can you tell me what you feel about it? He said, well, this I will answer. I'll tell you why I feel about it. What do you feel about it? And he explained to me. He said, I have a bag. I carry it with me wherever I go. Would you like to know what I have in the bag? I said, yes. I carry this bag, he said to me, everywhere, even when I come to the House of Lords, when I get out of the House of Lords, when I get out of my house, I carry this bag with me. And what I have inside it, I'll tell you. I have a passport and 27 different currencies. Why? In case the British authorities throw him out of the country because he is a Jew. He even bought a flat in Jerusalem in case he's going to be kicked out from Britain. It's amazing what I heard from people. And yet, they wouldn't fight back. Yet, maybe one person, one MP said to me something about anti-Semitism, but the rest of the Jewish leaders, I had a baroness. I met in a cafe in Oxford. She has reached the highest you can reach if you're not a member of the royalties, the Jewish baroness. I said, is anything in life you regret? She said, yes. I said, what is it? She said, when I was 19, I had the opportunity to move to Israel. Country just born. And I said, no. I stayed here. And I looked at her and I said, what are you complaining? You are a baroness, for that sake. She said to me, you don't understand. This country is anti-Semitic to the core. And then she said to me, but please, don't mention my name. Don't quote me by name. That's the reality. So British Jews know this is happening. And there are stories, dime a dozen in the book. And to see this Jewish response was frightening. That's my impression from the UK. And I like UK. I mean, if you live most of your life in New York, even in a place like the Upper East Side, you know, supposedly intellectual, and you hear people speak English, you cannot compare it to the English you guys and girls speak. I mean, the British, the English, every accent over there, every dialect, it's amazing. To walk in London and to hear this beautiful English. amazing way of use, making English to be such a beautiful language. I mean, it's like you cannot but fall in love with it. Fall in love with your culture. But at the same time, so sad how much they hate me just because I am a Jew. So of course I went around and I said that I anything but Israeli, but Jewish. I said I'm German. I'm a German journalist. And to a German journalist, sometimes they say I'm Jordanian or whatever, Austrian, but mostly German. And to the German, the people honest answers, except for the Jews.
Tuvia, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You've
you can
traveled
ask me
through.
For the same price, you can ask me two.
You've
Even
traveled
four.
through.
I'll take up to 4 questions.
You've traveled through several countries.
Say it again.
You've traveled through several countries, asking similar questions. And is the UK any different to Europe or any other countries you've been to?
Many of the countries in Europe, especially in the EU, are very anti-Semitic. But other countries, for example, Germany, which I'm spending a lot of time in Germany, at least I can understand the psychology of it. You know, you're talking about the German people, you know, on Oma and Opa, meaning grandpa and grandma did such horrible things as, you know, killing Jews for no reason in concentration camps, in, you know, in all those things, in the gas chambers. And the young generation saying to himself, how could grandpa and grandma be so bad? Maybe it's the Jews who are so bad. So you try to find excuse to clear the name of your grandparents by saying the Jews deserved it. At least I understand it. I don't agree with it. In Britain, it doesn't exist. It's not about that. You are not going to clear. I mean, Britain was on the other side of the war. You know, the kinder transport happened in the UK, you know. So why are they hating the Jews so much? It's amazing how embedded it is. It's like the old days. It's like history, you know, history of the edict of expulsion of the Jews, the story about the Jews of York. You know all the stories. You are from that land. You know the stories, and to see that, I mean, it's like I remember when I was in Clifford Towers in York. You know, where all the Jews 150 survived. They were in the castle there, and according to the history that we have, all of them were burned to death. And there is a little plaque, hardly visible, but there is a little plaque at the bottom. And when people came to go up the hill to the Clifford's Tower, I asked them to stop by and read to me this plaque about the senseless killing of the Jews. Some Brits read it, and there was a smile on their faces when they read it. 150 found their deaths. It was, and the camera caught it, and it was interesting to see that. I mean, in our day and time, where everybody is politically correct and everybody is bam, 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 bam. You know, there was in Britain, and you know, like on the time when I was there, that a British citizen put a Twitter, and he said a limerick. You know, he was trying to poke fun at the transgender, but he did it with a limerick, and he said, you know, he started life as a mammal, and then he ended up with a bird, you know, as a flying thing instead of walking on its feet. And he got a visit from the prosecution, from the police, telling him that what he is doing is illegal. Now, I hear this thing that you saw the video. It's shared millions of times. Everybody saw it. Do you think the people who said these things about Jews, any one of them was arrested? Any of them was questioned by the Northern Ireland police? Despite the leaders at the time, you know, who said in tweets, you know, that this will be prosecuted. No one was prosecuted. Nobody was questioned. But if you say that you started life as a mammal and ended up as a bird, that's illegal. It's amazing. You have in Scotland.
I'd like to ask a question which interplays with what you're saying. I was born knowing, I mean, I'm 53 now, I was born knowing what anti-Semitism was like in Ireland, because obviously the war and the Red Cross. But I'm a little bit concerned that people outside of the UK at the moment, and this differs from Europe, that they don't understand where the anti-Semitism is increasing and what people can do about it. I'll give you an example. When my mother moved into a local town, it would be like, you know, in Israel, Ra'anana, and if there's a town just down the road, my mother went out to the garden fence and heard the neighbors saying that the flotsam and jetsam are moving in. Now, that was the under sort of current of anti-Semitism at the time in the 60s. But now what we're seeing is a complete change of anti-Semitism here. We are dealing with, my organization, and I deal with Sharon, anti-Semitism on a, not just a daily basis, on an hourly basis here. And it's not sort of underground. It's not some Chinese whispers. It's actually overtly anti-Semitism. And children as young as 16, 17, early 20s are being radicalized over, you know, all the internet, social media platforms, Telegram, etc. And they're not just becoming anti-Semitic or pro-Palestinian, they're becoming out and out Nazis. They call themselves ethno-nationalists. So the anti-Semitism in Britain has changed. I mean, you can go up to somebody and say, you know, and talk about, do you support Palestine? Oh, yes, you know, Israel is doing this and that. But this is a different type of anti-Semitism. I'll speak to Sharon on this now. It's a completely different form of anti-Semitism. We knew about Ireland, we know about Belfast, we know exactly what's been going on for many years. But the anti-Semitism here is completely different. Also, which is a good thing, Tuvia, is that the laws here are much stricter in order to report the anti-Semitism than there are anywhere in the world. And I have tried to report anti-Semite, very ferocious one in Ireland. And they said, by opening this case, you'll be opening a can of worms. That's exactly what the police said to me.
Yeah, but the point is, forget the police, forget when you have lords, when you have MPs who are anti-Semites, what are you going to do? I mean, these are the people who are supposed to enforce a law against racism or racists themselves, because Jews have been taken out of the equation of racism. You can be leftist, you can be liberal, or whatever you want to call yourself, you know, no border, no nations, we welcome everybody, but by the end of the day, it's only the Jew is limited. When you go, and I checked it, you know, I spoke to so many NGOs and organizations, and I've seen them in action, and I joined them to see who they are. And as a German, I also welcomed all this NGO, you know, solidarity with Palestine and this with Palestine and whatever, you know, all kinds of Palestinian, pro-Palestinian organizations. And there is not one Palestinian in the organization. There is not one Arab in this organization. There is not one Muslim in these organizations. They're all white folks. And that's what they discovered, a way how to practice their anti-Semitism by saying they identify with Palestine. I mean, it's frightening. I mean, it's like many of the Muslims in the UK are Pakistanis, Afghanis, you know, from these kind of countries, you know, and I interviewed them. They are not as anti-Semitic as the whites. Some of them didn't care a hoot about Palestine. It's not their issue. They're not coming from Palestine, they're not coming from Lebanon, they're not coming from Jordan, most of them. So the Muslims, it's not a Muslim issue. I went to the east of London. I was in the church, I'm saying, in the mosque. I was praying with them and I screamed together with them, bowing up and down, you know, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, you know, God knows how many times. I couldn't find so much anti-Semitism when I crossed the street. I went to a bar. white men, young men, and he started telling me all the horrible things of what the Jews are doing. London City is controlled by Jews. Bim bam boom, bim bam boom. This guy is atheist, no Muslim. I didn't hear those things inside the mosque, the biggest mosque of London.
So Tuvia,
And this is sometimes the Jewish organizations here in America or in Europe, you know, on the ones who care about anti-Semitism, the one who calls themselves conservative or whatever, you know, they think that the anti-Semitism coming from the Muslim world. Yes, partly, but the main anti-Semitism in Europe today and in America is not coming from the Muslims. It comes from the normal people. And on many occasions, by the way, if you dig deep inside the organization, you'll see a Jew who is stirring the pot. It's time that we start paying attention to those Jews amongst us who are stirring the pot of anti-Semitism. That's the big trouble. That's the big problem. Even here in the US, who is bringing up all the time Palestine? Which American really cares about Palestine? Who is talking all the time, nonstop, sending letters to members of Congress, you know, to take care of the Palestinian rights? Who is this? Palestinian organizations? No, Jewish organizations. So it's time we have been tamed, in Britain especially, but also around the world, to join our enemies. And this is a frightening thing, what happened to us. I've never seen a tribe. I have been with American Indians, I've been with many American Black organizations, I've been in many African organizations, I've been in churches, in mosques, in whatever you want. I've seen many tribes, interview many tribes, many leaders of tribes. I've never seen a tribe like the Jewish tribe, which is full of self-hate. And we have to start working on that if we really want to get it out. It's not my job, because I am a journalist. I don't have an NGO. I'm not a member of any NGO. You know, this is not my things. I mean, I'm not a rabbi. I'm not an activist. I'm just a journalist. I point out to whatever. I just repeat like a tape recorder, you know, like a recording machine. I just repeat what people tell me, and I can analyze it for you the way I try to do it now. But this is what we have to remember. So you, when walking about anti-Semitism, you have to start looking also inside, inward. That's all I have to say.
So we've got a number of questions here on the chat, and I think if you look at your screens on the bottom, there's a raise hand sign if you want to speak. So okay. Can I suggest that if you want to speak, that you do that, and hopefully I can get it to work. So I'm looking here at Lisa Tilley has said, when can I ask my question, please? So Lisa, if you go to the raise hand, hopefully I will be able to bring you on if you're there, or anybody else who's, where's Lisa? Are you there? No. Okay, anybody else who wants to ask a question, just go to the raise hand, put your hand up, and let's see if we can find you. There's Lisa. Okay, so Lisa, are you there? No? Lisa, I can see your picture. You need to unmute. Hello, Lisa? No. Okay, anybody else who wants to ask a question? Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, okay, so ask your question.
Tuvia, thank you for your talk. I've heard you speak before. I want to ask you, what chance do we stand, Tuvia, in the UK when our own chief rabbi seems to be throwing us under a bus? If I can just explain what I mean, he seems to be very hand in glove with the Muslim community here. When in 2015, when we had the migrant crisis, he went all the way to the Greek camps to greet these migrants, so that they, you know, and also encourage the UK government to take them in huge numbers. He was advised on the coach to the camps, he was advised, Rabbi Mervis, please can you just conceal your kippah, because these people who we are going to visit, they will not take nicely to it if they find out you're Jewish. So instead of turning the bus back at that point, what does he do? He goes there, he conceals his kippah under a baseball cap, and he proceeds to tell them, you people, all of you, my sympathies are with you, and you remind me of my people who died in Auschwitz. So tell me, please, Tuvia, what chance do we have?
I think in general, I mean, and as I said before, thank you for raising the question. I think, as I said to you before, in my research, and I also researched it in another book, Hello Refugees, when I interviewed many refugees in Germany, because Germany accepted in the last few years, he accepted over 2 million refugees. And many of them are not like in the UK from Afghanistan and in Pakistan and places like that, but more from Syria, Lebanon, or whatever. And I spent one day with the refugees and one day with the Germans, and I found much more anti-Semitism with the white Germans than with the refugees. The refugees themselves are not a problem. I don't see it as the problem, at least not at the moment. I mean, the main problem you have is that Rabbi Mervin and the rest of the Jewish community, they will not fight anti-Semitism because it's that's the way they do it. And I think I'm sorry to say it, just as a personal opinion, not as a journalist, but as a human being, I can say, I mean, the chances for anti-Semitism to recede in the UK is very small, and I think that the best solution is for, if you really care about it and you care about the future generations, there is one Jewish state and it's called Israel, and I think that's the one of the few places, if not the only place, that at least at the time being, for the time being, is where we can see a continuation of the Jewish existence in a way that you don't walk on the street and you feel everybody hates me. I mean, and this is ridiculous what happens in the EU today, and especially in Britain. So I don't think I can give you good news and say to you, there is something you can do. There is almost nothing you can do, because the majority of the Jewish community is not going to be with you fighting this. And if you don't have the leadership of the Jewish community, you don't have the Jewish leaders, you don't have the established Jewish community. I mean, I had a, what's the name, from the you know, the board of Jewish deputies. You know, I tried to interview Marie Van Zyl, or whatever her name is, and she said in the beginning, she said yes, and then she said no. And then I tried to interview her again, and I said, okay, how about just a backdrop interview? Would you mind to give me a backdrop interview off the record? She said, okay, in that case, yes. So we agreed on a date, and then she said to me she cannot meet me because she is not in London these days and she doesn't know when she will be back. On the next day at an event in London, I saw her. I said, Marie, you are supposed to be somewhere else, not in London. And she said, sorry, Tuvia, I cannot talk to you. She lied to my face. These are the Jewish leaders you have today. These are the Jewish leaders.
Andrew,
Hi.
next question.
Yes, Tuvi, thank you very much. I've read Catch the Jew, great book, and interesting to hear what you said this evening. I am aware of the history between the Irish Republicans and the PLO, and I know that in the conflict, I am old enough to remember, I think it was the PLO that was arming the IRA, not the IRA. I think it was the PLO that was providing armaments to the IRA. And I think also because maybe a lot of the people, especially in the bar, were of that sort of generation that would remember that. And I think that maybe that's kind of playing out. I'm not justifying any anti-Semitism at all. But I didn't see on your video any Protestants being interviewed. And I would also be very interested to know what the Irish Jewish community think and whether they share your views as well. And just as a subtext to that, and I won't go on, I'm sorry, I don't want to hog. Thank you very much, Sharon, for giving me the opportunity. What do you think we should do do you think we should move to Israel, or is there something else we should do about the perceived anti-Semitism in this country?
So I'll answer your questions. First of all, yes, I interviewed also the Protestants. I mean, I interviewed also not just the Catholic, I interviewed the Protestants, and I gave one example of it in the book. So I was driving with a Protestant guy, and I said, can you show me to a nice restaurant? He said to me, what kind of a restaurant you want? I said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be just a good restaurant. And he looks at me and he says, are you Jewish? I said, why? Because you don't want to spend money. I said, no, I happen to be Austrian. I said to him, we are more stingy than the Jews. So there you go. But this is an example, a classic example from the Protestant. You know, I have been told that, you know, where the Protestant live, I would find a lot of Israeli flags. I didn't find them. Not when I was there. I found a lot of Palestinian flags, but I didn't find any Israeli flag, not at the time when I was in the neighborhood. But no, I found that even the ones who are supposedly love Israel or love the Jews, they're not really loving the Jews. This is a story. I mean, it's like, I mean, I interviewed so many people who tell me they are pro-Israel, and why are you pro-Israel? Because the Jews have money. I mean, this kind of pro-Israel I don't need. This kind of pro-Israel I don't need. I mean, people who say to me, we are for the Jews, and I said, why are we for the Jews? Because the Jews control everything, including the media. So it's good to be on the side of the Jews. I mean, this kind of philosophy, if you want to talk, we don't need. And what can you do? I mean, it's like, as I said before, I mean, what can you do if we are in a neighborhood that everybody hates you? I mean, imagine you are not Jewish. Imagine you are just another person. You are in a place where everybody, everywhere you go, don't like you. And if you cross the border and you go to another country, you know, everybody likes you. So where should you stay? In the place everybody hates you, and the place where everybody likes you. So I think just, and that's what happens. You're talking about Britain, you're talking about Israel. I mean, it's like, where would you go? I mean, if you like to be hated, if you're a masochist, I mean, stay in the UK as long as you want. I mean, if this gives you pleasure to be hated, then of course stay there. But if it doesn't give you pleasure, I mean, to me, it didn't give pleasure. So, and that's all I can say to you. I mean, it's like, it's not nice to go wherever you go around. And I just want to make one point. I don't like, as I said in the beginning, to write about anti-Semitism. And you know, it's like a plumber. All the time, dirtying his hands with the most stinking material that exists. I don't want it. I was just in Russia for 30 days, writing an article for the paper, for the German paper, Die Zeit. And I spent 30 days, and it was the only place in the world so far when I could go on the street. If I said I am German, people said, okay, we really don't like to talk to you. And if I said I'm an Israeli, a Jew, people said, welcome to our country. We love Jews. I don't know how Russia was 10 years ago. I don't know how Russia was 15 years ago. I know how Russia is today. Wherever I went in Russia, be it in Moscow, be it in Tver, be it in St. Petersburg, wherever I was, people liked you because you are a Jew. I mean, this is like funny. I never imagined in my life that I would go to Russia. I thought everybody hates Jews over there. No. If I say to somebody, I am an Israeli, or born in Israel, or I am Jewish in the UK, I immediately met with eyes that hate me. So if you ask me, if I had a choice just between Russia and the UK, I would go to Russia. But anyway, I'm not Russian, and I'm not advocating to go to Russia. But there is a Jewish state.
Okay, so next question. Joyce Noach.
I'm living in Amsterdam, in what was a Jewish quarter, and is still quite Jewish, and that is a good place to live. But I also lived outside the capital, and that I found a horror as a Jew. I look very Jewish, so everybody knew what I was, and I hated the comments. So here I think is maybe a little, but not so much difference here in Holland as in Britain.
I mean,
what do you think about that? When are you coming to Holland?
Oh, I've been in Holland many, many years ago, but you know, maybe one day soon. But I mean, almost every EU country, with the exception of the Czech Republic, every EU country that I have been to lately, I mean, the last few years, and that either Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Italy, I mean, many, Poland, many of the countries that I have, Germany, Hungary, many of the countries that I have been in the East and West, I have met with a lot of anti-Semitism. I mean, less, as I said, in the Czech Republic, but and as I said before, less, of course, in my experience in Russia of today. But there is nothing you can do. I mean, this is the mindset of the European Union. This is the mindset. This is a continuation of 2,000 years of Jew hatred. There is like nothing you can do. I mean, it's like, I've been for some time in Brussels, for example, in Belgium. And, you know, you hear all the time about Belgium as they treat nicely, as they care about Palestinians, as they care about the refugees from Morocco or whatever it is. Go to the Moroccan neighborhoods. See how the Belgian authorities treat them. And they welcomed me. They said, Mr. Tuvia, come with us. And I came with them. They don't pick up the garbage in the Moroccan neighborhoods. They don't care about them. They don't care about Palestinians. They don't care about Arabs. They don't care about Muslims. It's an excuse, but they really don't like Jews. I mean, this is a history of 2,000 years of hatred. It didn't start today. I mean, remember, I mean, the Holocaust did not happen sometime in history, you know, like 2,000 years ago, you know, after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. I mean, you are talking at the age of our parents or grandparents, you know, and wherever Germany went, with whatever country Germany captured, the people, the local people joined together in killing Jews, happily. I mean, when you look at the history, that's not so far. And the reason why the Nazi system failed, and it didn't stop, is not because the leaders of the Nazi or the fascists of Europe woke one day in the morning and said, oh God, what have we done to the Jews? How could they have done that? No, they just lost the war. That's why it stopped. We have to remember that. I mean, and this is something that I don't like to see it. It's like such a pleasure for me to go to a country and not report about anti-Semitism. It was like my highlight this year being in Russia. Maybe I'm wrong about Russia, maybe, I don't know. I'm not a Russian specialist. But at least I felt as a tourist, not being hated because I'm a Jew. It's a feeling I didn't have in 7 months while in the UK. I was in the UK for 7 months, I didn't have this feeling. I was in a hotel, for example, in Marble Arch. It was one Friday afternoon. And I see a guy, a Jew, obviously, because he had the yarmulke with his son, walking in a piece of paper looking for something. And I didn't know what they are looking for. So I overheard them speaking in Hebrew. And I said, Adoni, sir, do you need some help? I said, so I asked in Hebrew, so he answered me in Hebrew. He said, he's looking for a shul, for a synagogue. I said, in this area, I have been in that part of Marble Arch for quite some time. It was my hotel. And I like the Arab restaurants, the Middle Eastern restaurant there. One of my favorite is Al Balad, if you know where it is. And I looked at it was Erev Shabbat, it was Friday afternoon. He didn't have, he's a religious person. So, but I'm not religious. So I looked at my iPhone and I looked where the shul is, where the synagogue is. And guess what? Lo and behold, just next to me, 5 steps. And I said, how could it be? There is no sign anywhere that there is a temple here. There is a synagogue. So I said to him, you know what? My iPhone says it's right here. Let's go. We walk 5 steps. And then there's a little sign, the side of almost like a cigarette box. It says that this is a temple. This is a synagogue. So I asked the rabbi, what is this? You are hiding the synagogue? He said, it's security. Security. We cannot have a sign saying this is the synagogue because otherwise it will be vandalized. You are in the middle of London. You are in the center of the country. People on the street are demonstrating for climate change, for loving your neighbor, loving everybody, you know, human rights and human schmites and human bites and everybody, transgender and schmadgender and bigender and schmoogender and everything. But a Jew is not welcome. So I'm sorry. How can you live in a place like this? How can you? You have to be mentally damaged or masochist, you know, you have a psychological disease. And sadly, we the Jews, through 2,000 years of being persecuted, of being alienated, of being murdered, of being raped, we have learned, it's like Stockholm syndrome, to love our enemies. And we can get out of the UK. I asked the UK people, why are you here if you live in so much fear? They say, we have a very comfortable life. What? Your child was last week pelted with XP, and the white man who did it said to him, hey, you fucking Jew. And that's a good life. That's what you call good life. I'm sorry. I don't get it. My mother was in a concentration camp. My father was a refugee. 90% of my family died before I was born. And when I was a kid, I swore to myself. I swore to myself. I will never collaborate with anti-Semites. Never, ever. And this oath I keep to this day. And I hope that other Jews will do that. It's time we realize it's not going to help us. And if we avoid it, if we are lucky enough to avoid that hate, it will visit our children and grandchildren. Because that hate is not out of Europe, it's increasing in Europe. It has different names. It's being manufactured today by people who call themselves liberal. It's being advertised by people who call themselves human rights activists. By the good people. As I say in Yiddish and German, the gute Menschen. The good Menschen. The good people are now on our case. It's no longer just the extreme nationalist right-wingers, neo-Nazis, fascists who are hating us. No, it's the good people who are against us. The nice people who speak beautiful, beautiful English, much more beautiful than me. Beautiful accent, beautiful dialect, amazing terms of speech, highly educated, intelligent, intellectual, learned, loving. They love everybody except you and me. And that kind of curse we cannot solve. Because on the other side, staring at us is not a nationalist, fascist hater, but a liberal, leftist, humanist, Green Party, Left Party, Labour, the good people. They have become, in our generation, our biggest enemy. If you said it, last generation, people would laugh at you, but this is the reality today. Here in America, the people who are the mostly against Israel are the so-called liberals. Black lives matter, they scream. But Jew lives does not matter. That's the reality we live today. And you in the UK, your leaders, your rabbis, your politicians don't serve you. They serve their seats. They serve their chairs. They serve their jobs. They serve themselves, not you. That's all I can say. Sorry. I wish I had better news, but you know what? It's not such a bad news. Israel, by the way, I am in Israel every year, at least once a year, because my life is traveling all the time. Israel is a beautiful country. Beautiful, gorgeous. The food is excellent. Better than in the UK, by the way. Excellent food.
Okay, so Tuvia,
Excellent weather.
we've got a few more questions. It's going to be hard to top that because what you've just said has left me completely drained because a lot of it is my experience. And I, like you, have said to myself, I will not collaborate. But we've got a few more questions. I'm going to go, I've got two people up. I'm going to go to Norman and then Kathy. And then I want Jonathan Hoffman, who I believe edited your book. I'd like him to come on and say something. So Norman, keep it brief.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Tuvia.
Yeah. How you doing?
Sharon. I'm good, thanks. I'm Sharon's brother.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
How do you do? Okay, Tuvia, I've got some multi things to say, but
it's not only one thing.
Yeah, no, but I would just tell you, I study Kabbalah, and the Rav said that the root of anti-Semitism comes from the Jews. It's a very difficult concept to understand it. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm trying to say it simply so that it can be understood. He said the Jews are, the Israelites, he called us, are the central column. When you do the prayers, the three columns, the sharing, the receiving, and the balance. The Jews are gifted with the connection to the central column. That was the gift given to us via Abraham. And when the Jews do fail to fulfill their duty of spreading when you say spreading the awareness of Hashem or the light in the world, it doesn't mean to say that you're going preaching to people through your behavior. You can do it, you must do it anonymously if it need be. You don't need to mark yourself like I'm a rabbi, I'm a religious, you're not religious, not that way. It's an internal consciousness of how you connect every second of your life to thinking about sharing with other people. That's the core of what I've understood Judaism to be about. The Christians say that they love their neighbors, but this comes from Rabbi Akiva's sayings. Now, when the Jews fail to spread this light, if a Jew, for example, insults a non-Jew or drives in front of him and he realizes the Jew, we spread more hatred than actually doing the job we're meant to do. So we fail that. Now, when the Jews left Egypt, we were left with the Erev Rav. You probably know about them. They were the mixed multitudes, the Egyptians and Batya. And they were the ones that they were the Ha'am Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael were the bloodline. They weren't the bloodline, but they were the ones who complained against Moses all the time. And the Rav said that every generation, those people reincarnate themselves as the fifth column type of Jew. And you talking, I understand, I agree with you. I come from a father with Jabotinsky and all that. And I understand what you're saying because I think your way. That the Jews that collaborated with the British in this time of the First World War, Second World War, all that, allowed them to manipulate and steal Israel from us, are no different to the Jews we've got today. Like Lord Montagu at the time was anti the formation of the State of Israel. The Jewish Board of Deputies are the follow-on from that. They're the liberal kind of Jews, which unfortunately come from Germany in the 18th century. A lot of them, Mendelssohn's family.
I'll just answer your thing because we are limited in time. I come from a rabbinical family, and my great-grandfather was the rabbi of Radzin. I don't know the Radzin Rebbe, the one who decided the Tchelet. My father was a Rosh Yeshiva. I happen to be not religious, but I come from a line of rabbis, and I'm well aware of this kind of thinking. But I think it's kind of almost, I would call it diaspora thinking. We almost can give excuses, blaming ourselves for what happened to us during all these years. I want you to remember that the majority of the people who died in the Holocaust were not what you would call, the enlightened, liberal, non-religious Jews. So Hasidim, There were people who worshipped God, who observed every commandment in the Bible fully and fully and fully. The line of Hasidic communities that I come from, the dynasty and the sect, whatever you want to call it, the group, the Radziners, they were tens of thousands of followers, all worshiping God to the best of their ability. From that Hasidus, from that Hasidut, from that sect, from that dynasty, almost no one survived. You are looking at the rare person who survived from that place. So no, it's not a payment for what the wrongs that we have done. It's a galut diaspora kind of thinking. No. This kind of thinking leads you to the way of not fighting back. Don't blame yourself that you did not behave and God took revenge. I don't think that if you're a religious person, honestly, this is the way to look at God as basically a really satanic force almost, that he will take revenge for everything that you do. Yes, you can quote the Bibles that God is revengeful. You can also quote the Bibles that God is the most merciful of the merciful. You can quote whatever you want, and as the Talmud say, you can quote the Bible to justify the worst behavior. Naval Birshut Torah. So I would not go in that kind of religious course. I would say the people to blame is the anti-Semites. The other people to blame is some of our leaders who are helping them. Those leaders are not necessarily secular. Those leaders can be the chief rabbis of your communities. They can be Rabbi Mervin, they can be Rabbi Sachs, they can be any rabbi you want, they can be the Sakmare Rebbe, they can be the Belzer Rebbe, they can be a Rav Shach, they can be any one you want. There's nothing to do, don't throw to heaven. Don't give God, and don't blame him for the things you can do. If you go on a subway tracks, and the subway is approaching, the train is approaching, and you say, God, it's in your hands if I survive or not, then you are, I'm sorry to say it, an idiot. No, you don't give everything to God. If you are a religious person and you really believe in God, you have been given the option. Kabbalah is a field that none of us knows, really. None of us knows what the Zohar is. None of us know even if you are really versed in Jewish studies, if you are really versed in the Talmud, you would know. And in Jewish history, by the way, is that the Zohar we have today might actually not be the original Zohar. So let's not quote a book that is in doubt. And even if it was not in doubt, let's not quote a book that most of us cannot even read because it's written in Aramaic. And even in Aramaic, it's written in a very difficult language. Let's not quote books. Let's not go in that route. Be like normal human being. All that is asked from us, the Jewish people, is to look at reality and answer it normally. Would any other tribe in the world behave like us? Would any other tribe in the world, met by so much hatred, would actually join that hatred? Or justify it? Or explain it away? No. I have never, ever met another tribe like the Jews. We have been psychologically damaged by 2,000 years of bad history. The bad history is rooted, as far as I can tell, as far as my understanding goes, in the split of Christianity from Judaism, where you can see the first ideas about the Jews being different. You can see it in the New Testament, when Jesus said to the Jews, in its argument with the Jews, the Jewish leaders, he said, I speak in the name of my Father, the Father of heaven, and you speak in the name of your father, the devil. At the time, it was two Jews talking to each other, but it came to be a Christian talking to a Jew. That's what for history, because the Jews did not accept Christianity. So from that we know that the father of the Jews is Satan. We also know what the New Testament says, that the Jews are the only tribe in the world, the only people in the world, the only race in the world who are blind, cannot see the light of the Lord. We also know what Jesus went to the temple in Jerusalem, and what did he see? on the steps leading to the temple, he saw the money changers. From this, so he knows the Jews are good in money. If you look at the roots of anti-Semitism, you'll find it in the fight and dispute between the follower of Jesus and those who did not follow Jesus. It's not a secret. You can see it. It's right there. That's my answer.
Kathy Benson.
Hi, Tuvia. I actually ran into you at a JPOST conference many years ago.
Yeah.
So I couldn't remember
Hello.
your name, but
Hello.
yes. So I've caught you again here. And I'm in America, in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And
Hello.
you did mention Black Lives Matter, and I was brought up very reformed. You can tell by my name that nobody even knows I'm Jewish here. So I've gotten a lot of comments and have to say, by the way, I am Jewish, and then they stop. But the sad part here is, first of all, I probably will not have Jewish grandchildren because of the assimilation from my family. But now I'm learning Torah and standing up. And many in my family are supporting Black Lives Matter. And when I tell them, read it, it's anti-Semitic. They say it on their website. They support BDS. And the Jews around me who I speak to about this say, yeah, but we have to support the Blacks. We can put aside us for a little bit and support the Blacks. The problem is the Jews have been putting themselves aside, at least in America. I think we are following Europe right in step. And I should have realized it earlier, but I've come to it now. And I have to thank you and many, many people for that knowledge. And I guess my question is, would you come back to America and see if it's gotten worse for the Jews here?
So I'm in America at the moment. I'm now in New York, and I have written a book about America, and because I traveled in America for many, many months, and that's called The Lies I Tell, and in which I document the rising anti-Semitism in the USA as well. I mean, here in America, we learn very much about anti-Semitism from the Europeans. We are very good students, and we have some good leaders, Jewish leaders who are helping us. And this is like Bernie Sanders. He might be a cute man, but he is really making public stories and Bobomizes. For example, he said that Israel killed 10,000 Gazan in the Gaza war. I mean, it's like terrible things that we have our leaders saying it. And I documented, for example, I was in an event of Haaretz, Israel Fund in the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. And there was at the time Samantha Powers, she's the UN representative at the time. And she said to a gathering of 1,000 intellectual Jews, she told them that she has been sent by President Obama to tell the people here, the Jewish communities, that the Obama administration will fight with all its might against anti-Semitism in the UN. And she is dedicating her time in the UN to fight anti-Semitism. And you had about 3 Jews who clapped out of the thousands. Then Ayman Uda, the Arab Israeli Knesset member from the new list, went to the stage and he told the 1,000 Jews, he said to them, Israel must memorize and remember the Nakba. When the Jews came to Palestine in 1948 and they killed mercilessly innocent Arabs, men and women, civilians, for no reason. He said that, and 1,000 Jews in New York City got up and gave him a huge standing ovation. And they clapped for 5 minutes. This is, when you see this, you can believe what your eyes are seeing. Forget the Palestinian question, forget everything. When somebody says, I'm going to fight for you, 3 out of 1,000 clap. When somebody calls you, you murderers, stealers, thieves of a country, of Palestine, or kill people for no reason, innocent people, and you stand up and give a standing ovation for that person. I mean, obviously, that kind of tribe who does it needs a psychiatrist, maybe a team of psychiatrists. But that's what it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so I've got two more people here. I've got Jonathan, and then I want to go to Cliff Dixon. So Jonathan, are you live?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Tuvia.
I can hear you, but I don't see you.
I don't see you, Jonathan. Where have you gone to?
Hang on.
I'll find you. There we go. You haven't got your camera on.
The camera's on. The camera's on.
Okay.
Should be on.
Jonathan, I don't see you, but I want to thank you. You have been a great help for me when we were, my wife and I and our team, when we were in London. You are a great help to introduce us to us people and to invite us. And you are the first one to go over the script and give your comments, because I really needed somebody from Britain, a British person who used to be an editor also, to go over the script and tell me if I got any mistake, if I got your people right. And you are the first one to enlighten my eyes and to encourage me while I was writing the book. So I'm very thankful to you for your help through the time when we were together.
It was really a pleasure, Tuvia. And thank you for doing this session, and thank you to Sharon and Ambrosine for setting it up and the work that they put into it. Tuvia, I think that what you said about the leadership being a victim of the Stockholm syndrome and the leadership being in denial, for me, it's been epitomized by, I've tried to get JW3 to do a session about this book. I've tried to get Jewish Book Week to do a session about this book. And I've just had a blank wall. And that to me epitomizes really what the problem is. Instead of Tuvia Tenenbom at JW3, we've had David Baddiel twice, and we've had Billy Bragg as well, somebody who supported Corbyn. But my question really is about your experience as a journalist here. And particularly, I wanted to ask you about Pete Wilsman. Pete Wilsman was the gentleman, the member of the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, who you met in a hotel in Oxford and late at night, and you got talking. And he started saying some pretty horrible things. I won't say what they were because I want people to read the book, which, by the way, is fantastic. Everybody should read it. But what I wanted to ask you, Tuvia, was the problem for me, and what's scary is that people are willing to say these things in public. They're not ashamed of it. And just confirm to me that Pete Wilsman knew he was being recorded. And I don't know if he was being videoed as well, but he knew he was being recorded. Can you just confirm to us, Tuvia, that the people you interviewed knew they were being recorded?
Okay, I'll correct you on this one. Pete Wilson, Red Pete, whatever you want to call him, is the only one actually that I did not tell him I'm recording it. I didn't even know I was recording it. I was recording him. I met him in the hotel. We were in the Randolph Hotel in Oxford, and it was late in the evening. And me and my team, we are all starving. We wanted to go and eat something, and everything was kind of closed. But the restaurant was still open for 15 more minutes. So we went to take a sandwich. And because it was about to close, there was almost nobody there except for one person with big glasses on his nose, reading a paper at the end of the room. And I didn't know who he was. And I started talking to him. I say, "Hey, man with glasses, how you doing?" I didn't even plan to interview him. I didn't even know who he was. But so happened that my sound man forgot to take the wire, and I didn't even know I had it on me, of the recording thing of the, and he was recording it, and it was like a few hours of conversation. and he recorded it all this time through. What Peter Wilson did know, he did know that I am a journalist.
He knew you were a journalist, though, didn't he?
He knew, yeah, he knew that I'm a journalist. He knew that I'm a German journalist, and we got along very, very well. We were laughing there for quite some time, and he really loved my glasses, and he started calling me. What did he call me?
John Lennon. John Lennon.
John Lennon. He called me, exactly. I put it in the book. He called me John Lennon. You know, so we communicated. I communicated with him later on. You know, and he was communicating what he talked to me with what's his name, Jeremy Corbyn, and Jeremy Corbyn. When I met Jeremy Corbyn told him that he met me. So he knew whenever I met Jeremy Corbyn, whenever I saw Jeremy Corbyn, he knew that I saw him. So it was very, very interesting because you worked very, very, very much together. He and Jeremy Corbyn, they are like brothers. You're like going together for 40 years, and they shared the same mindset. And that mindset he was very happy to share with me. It was practically very anti-Semitic. But yes, this is Peter Wilson. But he did not know he was recorded. I did not know he was recorded. Only after the meeting, you know, my soundman said, okay, it's time to take off the recording. It was a great recording. I said, hey, you recorded it? He said, yes. Okay, I didn't even know he was recording it, because usually when I interview people, I don't record it. But after I did that, I met because I thought it's very important. It's a public information, and he's a public person because he's on the NEC and he's very close to Jeremy Corbyn. So I did meet a British lawyer, an English lawyer, and I asked him, may I use this information, even though I did not know I was recording him, and I didn't tell him I'm recording him because I didn't know, because usually I do everything in public. I never do it with, you know, under the wraps, you know, I never do like candid camera. So the answer that I got from the British lawyer was, yes, by all means, he's a public person and you can use it. And just keep it, make sure you don't lose it if that he cannot contest it. But yes, you can use it.
But that is the scary thing, is that people are now saying these things, knowing that they're talking to journalists and knowing that it's in public, and they're not afraid to say it. That's the scary thing for me.
Yeah, they are not afraid to say it. They feel very comfortable to say it, and he really liked me, so he shared with me exactly what he thinks. What he thinks of the Jews, what he thinks of the Israelis, what he thinks of everything, what he thinks of all anti-Semitism issue, and he shared it, and it's all in the book. So yes, it was a frightening to see, and even those that on a personal level we got very much along, as I got very much along with Jeremy Corbyn, it was yes. Is that what it was? Yes, and it's frightening to think what these people will say to a journalist, knowing that he might repeat it if he recorded it or not, and even just as a background information, as they try to make a policy known, as they try to affect the media in their thought, with their thoughts about Jews and Israelis. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Jonathan. I've now got Cliff Dixon. So Cliff, speak up.
Oh, hi, Sharon. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, yes.
Hi, lovely. Tuvia, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. You have a hat in the back of you. You have that look like a Hasidic hat.
No, it's more Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I know. They are similar. Come on, at least from the back, they look similar. I don't think exactly. From the back, they look similar. But it's nice standing there over there, like waiting to be used.
Well, yeah. I've got to make a confession. I'm not Jewish.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
But, yeah, exactly.
We love everybody. We love everybody.
Well, I've stood with Jewish friends, including Sharon, on street protests against anti-Semitism. I go online countering the lies. It's like whack-a-mole, really, with all the anti-Semites popping up. But I can see where you're coming from tonight, where you're saying to people, make Aliyah, because it's very difficult in England now. And I've seen so much casual anti-Semitism, it's really quite scary. The problem I can see is that obviously, if all the Jews do make Aliyah and leave, The problem we're then going to have with so much anti-Semitism in the UK and the US, how are those of us who support Israel and support our Jewish friends who are left behind, how are we going to be able to stop them bringing forward government policy that is going to undermine Israel and possibly put the future of the world's only Jewish state at risk?
I don't think that having Jews in Britain is helping the Jewish states. I don't think having Jews in America is helping the Jewish states. I mean, so far I can tell you that having Jews here in New York City is not helping the Jewish states. I don't see it. I actually see the opposite effect of it. I see all these Jewish organizations who are very well funded and quite powerful, and they try bring motions into the Congress of resolutions against Israel. So having this kind of Jews in this kind of Jewish leadership and this kind of so-called Jewish money, I mean, this foundation are like showered with money, and as you do these kind of things, I really don't need them. I mean, so I don't think that not having Jews is going to be, look, how many Jews you have in Czech Republic? How many? Almost none. Czech Republic is very pro-Israel, very pro-Jewish. I mean, compared at least with other, personally, I can tell you my books sell in Czech Republic like thousands upon thousands upon thousands. This is a very small country. And so having Jews in a country does not necessarily translate to anything, you know, of pro-Jewish or anything. It doesn't help. By the end of the day, I mean, you see a lot of Jews that I know, you know, that are my age, and you stare at them and they really care about Israel. They really care. They live here, but they care about Israel. They care about this. They care about that. And then you ask them, and your children, do they care about it? And most of them, not all of them. And so no, the children don't care about that anymore. If they care about anything, it's Black Lives Matter or something like that. But they don't care anymore about Israel. They don't care about Jews. They think Israel is a pariah state. These are the children of people who are very much for Israel, because they have been educated by the general atmosphere. You know, this is the way they think. So having Jews in the land, you know, is basically, it works against it, because most of them end up outside of the Orthodox world. You know, most of the Jews are very critical of Israel, are very critical of Jewish organizations, are very critical of anything. They just all the time want to be nice and look nice to the people, and they take the cause of the majority or whatever they think the majority is, and that's what it is. I mean, look at American Jewry. I mean, it's a sad story. I mean, that's what it is, and there are many more Jews here than in Britain, and that's what it is. I mean, look at the Britain Jewry. Look at it. How many people you have like Sharon or like Jonathan? I mean, how many people you have like that? Most of the Jews in Britain are basically joining the other side. And I'm talking about the leaders. And the other things. Yeah.
There was a couple of questions that came through.
Yes,
can I ask the questions for?
Finish with Cliff? Are they to do with what Cliff's talking about?
Could I just quickly pop something in there, Sharon? Which again, Tuvia, if all the Jews leave the US and the UK and make Aliyah, those of us who are pro-Israel, who are Christian, and there are a lot of us, how can we make sure that our governments don't turn against the state of Israel and make things even worse for those people who have made Aliyah? How can we make the difference here? You can
still make the difference there. I mean, it's like the Christian communities here in the United States who are pro-Israel do not get funding from the Jews who live here. Most of the Jews here are not connected with them. You're talking about the people, for example, from the evangelicals at this point in time. We don't know what will be in the future, pro-Israel and pro-Jewish. They don't need the Jews around them to be pro-Israel. They don't need, they are fighting the cause because they believe, they for whatever reason, they like the Jews and they like Israel. So they don't do it because the Jews live here. They do it because the Jews are thousands of miles away in Israel, and they are in danger, or they see them in danger, or they see that the government is not supporting them enough, so they do it. They don't do it for the fellow Jews in the United States. You know, the Christians who support Israel are not doing it for the sake of the fellow Jews next to them. You know, they do it for the Jews who are there in Israel, thousands of miles away, because this is what their belief is. Again, this is this time in the evangelical community. We don't know how long it will be. I have already noticed that in the evangelical community, for example, in the United States, the younger generation is much less supportive of Israel as the parents' generation. So, but this is a different issue. But the ones, the Christians or whoever it is who want to support Israel, there's not and affect a government policies, they can do it very well without a Jewish neighbor. You don't need a Jewish neighbor to be next to you. The Jews can always come to visit, you know, it's like, Britain is still beautiful, you know. I mean, we still nice people there who would like to visit it, but it doesn't mean that we have to live there.
So Ambrosine, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't know if everybody saw a video today, and I don't think Tuvia did, of a religious pregnant woman in Stamford Hill who was followed from behind. The police are still trying to find the perpetrator. She was followed by behind. This is a daily occurrence, a weekly occurrence in Stamford Hill. And she was put upon, and a plastic bag was put over her head and tried to tussle her to the ground. Now that video was uploaded by Shomrin to Twitter and was shown around. Everyone shared it around, and all of a sudden, as people are trying to help and trying to find the perpetrator, Shomrin came out and said they want to take it down because it's upsetting people. Now, to me, this is what has happened over the past 30, 40, 50 years. 20 odd years since CST has been about. Whenever there is an anti-Semitic attack, and I heard about another one today through somebody else, which wasn't advertised, these are being swept under the carpet. Physical anti-Semitic attacks are not being publicized. We have an organization who is supposedly supposed to protect Jews. They protect them on the doors of the synagogues, they protect them on the doors of the schools. But whenever there is an anti-Semitic incident, we don't get to hear about it. If we don't get to hear about it.
By the way, you know why? I'll tell you why. I have a perfect example. I was interviewing Lord Michael Levy. Lord Levy, everybody knows his name, you know, from Labour.
Yes.
You know, and I repeated to him some stories of people who told me stories like you are telling me now. As they have been attacked, or our people in their community have been attacked in anti-Semitic attacks. He screamed at me. He yelled at me. He told me not to dare to repeat those things, not to say those things. We live in a democracy. I never heard ever in my life. He's like screaming at me, you know. These kind of things are happening in this place. Jeremy Corbyn is not an anti-Semite. He just needs a little bit of education in foreign policy. You're talking about a Jew who was to be the public face of Tony Blair in the Middle East.
Tuvia, I can tell you that you're now looking at a Jew who was attacked in the street outside a Jeremy Corbyn meeting. That's me.
Yeah.
When you were in London,
yeah.
I was attacked. Cliff Dixon, who you just spoke to, that's where I met him. He helped me. He tried to help me. He was held back from helping me. And I was left unconscious on the pavement. And when the police came, they escorted the attendees of the Jeremy Corbyn meeting out of the hall to keep them safe from me. Ambrosine was kicked in the shins. And that's really what happened. And when this was reported to the CST, to the head of the CST, the CEO, he said, yes, but she's a firebrand. There we go. So we now have Jeffrey Alderman.
And I remember I was like in one public event with Jeremy Corbyn, and there were two Hasidic Jews with yarmulkes and payas, and they were there volunteering to protect him. For example, and he went to the toilet, so he went to a team to protect him. When he came back from the toilet, they accompanied him. Look, who is protecting Jeremy Corbyn? I mean, it's like amazing.
So Jeffrey Alderman, are you there?
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Tuvia.
Hi, Jeffrey.
I hope you can hear me. I want to thank Tuvia for his talk, but also, Tuvia, if I may add a bit of context. I have made several visits to Northern Ireland to talk about Israel, Zionism and the Jews. And most recently, I addressed a largely Sinn Féin audience in Derry, or Londonderry. And I was genuinely shocked at the ignorance of my audience as to the historic strong ties between Irish nationalism and the Zionist movement. People were incredulous in this audience, Tuvia, to discover that the chief arms supplier of Michael Collins, the great IRA leader, who was gunned down, of course, by his own side just outside Cork in the Civil War. His chief armourer was a man called Robert Briscoe, who was Jewish and in fact a supporter of Cherut and Menachem Begin. They were absolutely shocked when I told them that after the so-called Easter Uprising of 1916, the chief rabbi of Dublin, Rav Herzog, hid from the British Irish nationalists who were hiding from the British in his cellar. And he became known thereafter, forever after, as the Sinn Féin rabbi.
Yeah, but go tell it to the people from Sinn Féin. I went to the Sinn Féin bookstore in Derry, and it was very interesting experience because they sell not only books, of course, about Palestinians, but also they said all kinds of memorabilia. For example, T-shirts of Free Gaza, Palestinian flags. Free cards, free postcards that tell you about how many children have been died by the hands of the Israelis. I mean, this is the Sinn Féin store in Derry. You know,
I have walked through the nationalist areas of Belfast, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They are full of these fantastic wall murals featuring the Palestinian flag. But I've also walked through the loyalist, the so-called loyalist areas of Belfast, and I've seen, Sharon, the Israeli flag on these wall murals. But Tuvia asks a very basic question, and he's quite right to ask it. Tuvia, in my view, British society from top to bottom is saturated with anti-Jewish prejudice, but it differs. It's not the same prejudice in every section of society. And the question you ask is, you know, the Jewish community in Gunson, in the disunited kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is, let's say, outside 330,000. Why don't we all up sticks and relocate to Israel? That's a very fair question. I have my red lines. I didn't ask to be born in this country. My grandparents and great-grandparents came from shtetls in Poland and Polish Russia, Poland and Russia, Lithuania. And I was born here. I was actually born in a royal palace, Sharon, the Royal Palace of Hampton Court, to which the Bierster Jewish Memorial Hospital Stoke Newington had been relocated by order of His late Majesty King George VI. So I find myself in this country. I've had an academic career. I'm now 77 years of age. Have I experienced anti-Semitism in academia? You bet, Tuvia, I have. You bet I have. But I've made my way here. I do have red lines. If, God forbid, the British Parliament were to declare Brit Milah or Shchita illegal, I would leave. Those are my red lines. And I think I'm probably, Sharon, typical here. Each of us has his or her red line. Those are mine. But Tuvia, I'm not insensitive to the saturation of British society with anti-Semitism, from the violent anti-Semitism of the streets, as when I was a youngster growing up in Hackney, that's spelled Sharon Hackney, the H is silent, So you knew as a Jew, we Yiddish boys knew you didn't go down certain streets because you were likely to get your face smashed in. So my mother once called the police. Incidentally, her father was a policeman. She called the police. She said, my son Jeffrey's been attacked. He said, well, he shouldn't go down that street. He should go down this street.
Okay,
I understand you, Jeffrey, I understand you, and you have a total right. I'm not taking away your right to where you live. I just gave my honest opinion, what I think about what people should do and what I would have done if I had children. And yes, and my job is I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a theater person, and I'm a journalist, and I travel a lot, and I call home wherever I am, and every year I'm somewhere else, and that's my life. I am Navenad. I mean, it's like the Jew goes from one country to the other. But if I had children, I would never ever in my life would have liked to raise them in a place where anti-Semitism is so strong. And if I did that, I could complain to nobody if my children had a hand up to be anti-Jewish themselves. And that's what happened to many Jewish communities. When the young generation is moving away from Judaism because why does he need this headache? So it's just an advice that I say, you know, as a fellow human being, you know, I mean, it's much nicer and it's much better to go around, to walk on the street and knowing that people like you, or at least that people don't hate you. I think that it's not healthy for any one of us to walk on the street and know that we are hated. That's all I can say. I mean, and you have to understand, the Labour Party, the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, as it came to the fore, you know, in the last few years under Jeremy Corbyn, you have to understand that I'm not trying to make a comparison here, but you have to understand, in Germany, Adolf Hitler did not create anti-Semitism. It was there. All what he did, he used it. The same, sorry, I'm not comparing, of course, between Jeremy Corbyn and Adolf Hitler, but Jeremy Corbyn did not create the anti-Semitism either in Labour or in Britain. He's just been using it for his advantage, for his political advantage. That's all what Jeremy Corbyn did. Anti-Semitism in Britain is not Jeremy Corbyn. Anti-Semitism in Britain is not the Labour Party. You have many anti-Semites also in the Tories. Anti-Semitism is the disease of the society. It's not the disease of one individual. To put all the cards and all the blame on one human being called Jeremy Corbyn is a cop-out and a lie. Jeremy Corbyn as a human being, I can tell you, is a very nice guy. Very soft-spoken, very nice. He is fatherly. He's like a Christian, we would call it pastor. He's very friendly. That's what he is as a human being. But at the same time, he really doesn't like Jews. And he's a politician. And he used that dislike of Jews to advance his cause and his political career. But he did not create anti-Semitism. He is not the Satan. So some Jewish leaders who try to put everything on Jeremy Corbyn because this is the easiest way for them to fight after, especially after Jeremy Corbyn left. It's a cop-out. It's the society. It's the men and women on the street. It's the young people. And the young people who say to me, oh, I love Jeremy so much. You see students in UCL, smart kids, 18, 19-year-olds. Oh, I love Jeremy. Isn't he wonderful? What does he love in Jeremy? What has Jeremy done for them? He cares for the suffering people of the world, for the Palestinians. It's not Jeremy's fault. It's not Peter Wilson's fault. It's the fault of the society. That's what we have to remember. And if you as a person, as a Jew, feel with everything taking into account that you want to stay in Britain, by all means stay. By all means. I'm not telling you to go. It's not my job to tell you to go. Who am I? I'm not God. But all I say is, if it were me, up to me, and if I had children, I wouldn't want to raise them in a way in this world. You go to Gateshead, the biggest yeshiva, the most famous yeshiva in Europe, not just in Britain, in Europe, the most prestigious. I walk on the street, I only go to see a bookstore. I can't find a bookstore in Gateshead next to the yeshiva. I'm trying. There are thousands of people, there must have a bookstore. I find a little kid, a young man, 14 years old. He tells me, I say, where is the bookstore? You have a bookstore here, a Jewish bookstore. He said, yes. You go all the way down, you'll see it, right ahead of you. I looked around, I say, I don't see anything. He says, oh, he points to a building. Right there. I said, I don't see it. He said, you want me to take you? I was like, okay, I'll take you over there. Where you go? And we see a store, looks like a construction place. The shutters are down, everything's down. There's no sign outside, nothing. He says, right there. I said, what is this? This is a closed place. It's shutters. It's like metal shutters. No, he said inside. So I said, I don't believe you. So he opens the door and there is a bookstore, a huge big bookstore. I say, hello, why are you hiding your bookstore? As if it were like a pedophilia center. Are you selling drugs here? No, we are selling Jewish books, religious books. Why are the shutters down? Why don't you have a signed bookstore like a normal thing? He said, why do you want people to throw stones in the place, to vandalize the place, to set it on fire? In Gateshead, I tried to go into the yeshiva. You can't go in. You need another code. I talked to a few students. Within seconds, a security guy comes, boom, boom, loud, boom, stops next to me. Who are you? I said, who am I? I am a human being. What's your problem? What are you doing here? Security is trying to stop me from walking on the street of Gates. So I answered him in Yiddish. I said, was machst du damit? Für was machst du das? Oh, du hast Yiddish, you speak Yiddish. So you're a Jew, okay. Okay, you can be here. This is not normal. This is hell from Dante's. I mean, how can you be so blind to see what happens in your neighborhoods? How can you be so blind to see how unhealthy is such an environment? How ridiculous it is. And when I asked the Jews, why are you still here? They say, because we have a comfortable life here. I don't know. I don't understand it. I cannot comprehend it for the life of me. This is comfortable life? Whom are you kidding?
Tuvia,
of course, if this is what you like, have it. It's a free country, it's a free world. Do whatever you want.
Let me introduce you to Tony Corin, who's a great friend. Tony?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Why, I want to ask first of all, why could I not see the participants or the chats most of the way through this Zoom?
The chats, well, we'll talk about the technology later. Talk to Tuvia.
Okay, no, we appear to be hiding. I'm saying Tuvia's talking about hiding, and it appeared that this Zoom meeting is also hiding because
I think you have to press. I think from whatever I said, but I think there is an error.
Because I'm in charge. Because
Tony,
I'm in charge. That's why.
It was Sharon who
there is an error. Tony, there is an error. You can go in an error.
No,
you can go there.
No,
exactly.
Tuvia. Sharon had done it that way. It was not possible for me to see chats or to see participants until very recently. Anyway, I just want to say, first of all, I agree with what you said about Luciana Berger and Margaret Hodge. I saw Margaret Hodge being interviewed on Newsnight by Emily Maitlis, and it was specifically about anti-Semitism, about a tweet from an actress, that the IDF was training police in America to, to hurt and kill black people. And although Emily Maitlis was Jewish and Margaret Hodge was Jewish, and they were talking about anti-Semitism, neither of them identified as a Jew. We know they're Jewish, but many, many people watching Newsnight do not know that. And so I call this hiding in plain sight. Yes, a lot of Jews, we hide in plain sight. Now, 30 years ago, I went to the Oxford Centre for Hebrew and Jewish Studies, which is, I think it's partly affiliated to Oxford University. And when I went there, I met a very nice, jolly, big guy who'd been studying in Lithuania or something. Rabbi, maybe it was David Katz, I'm not sure. And there was no sign on the door. So I asked him, how come you don't have a sign? And this was, by the way, right in the center of Oxford, in the town. I asked him, why don't you have a sign on your door? This was 30 years ago in 1991. And he told me, we can't put a sign on the door because the insurance company won't insure us if we do that. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, Tuvia, first of all, should we start using a different term from anti-Semitism? Should we call it out for what it is? Jew hatred and Jew baiting. People who openly insult and bait Jews. Would that be helpful? And then regarding the issue of the diasporas, in a sense, if we all upped sticks and went to live in Israel, would we not have actually achieved what the anti-Semites want? The world would be free of Jews. There would be no Jews anywhere in the world. All these rich, fantastic communities that go back 2,000 years, 3,000 years, all over the world, they would all be in Israel. So I have very mixed feelings about your suggestion that we should all go and live in Israel.
So I'll answer your two questions. First of all, the difference between anti-Semitism is a modern term, just a couple of decades, what is this, like in 1800 something, I don't remember exactly when it was changed. It used to be Judaism, basically Jew hatred, and it was changed to anti-Semitism, but practically it means the same. Jew hating, Judaism and anti-Semitism practically mean the same thing. I mean, it's not, it was just, some scientists, whatever social scientists decided to call it, instead of Jew hating, call it anti-Semitism. So for whatever reason, now we don't go into that history, but basically it means the same. Everybody you talk about what anti-Semitism knows, you are not talking about the Semites of Iraq, you are talking about the Semites of Israel and the Jewish part of it. You are not talking about the Arabs. Everybody knows anti-Semitism, what it is. You want to call it Jew hating, you can call it Jew hating, but it's not going to help the situation. It's not going to change it. It's just a modern name. So it's the same things you can argue. It's like anti-black or anti-racist or whatever you call it. It's a different term for the same thing. So I don't think, I mean, maybe in your mind it sounds different, but for an anti-Semite, if you call him a Jew hatred, okay, big deal. It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, the word
he's always going to deny he's not anti-Semite. He's always going to deny that he's not.
Is it anachronistic, Tuvia?
Yeah, okay, whatever you can call it Jew hating, but I don't think it will help anything, because the anti-Semite now you call by name anti-Semite, they say they are not anti-Semite. Or did the classic example in Britain, Jeremy Corbyn Jeremy Corbyn says, yes, I'm an anti-Semite. No, he never said that. Of course he said he's against anti-Semitism. So the anti-Semites are never going to say they are pro-Semites, and so and if you call them Jew haters, it's not going to help. That's number one. I mean, you are welcome to do it. I mean, but I don't see it help. The other thing, what happens if all the Jews leave Europe or the United States and they come to Israel? First of all, when I say it, if you care about Judaism, then I think you should do it. By the end of the day, most of the Jews sadly don't care about Judaism. So and those Jews will always stay, either in Europe or in wherever it is, or in America,
all over
or
the
in South
world,
America,
all over the world,
America,
Tuvia.
or in the Middle
Latin
East, all over
America,
the world.
Asia, the
So
Maghreb.
the Jews,
Yeah.
so it will never happen when all the Jews come to Israel. I mean, unless you're a religious person and you believe, in messianic times. But, I say move to Israel if you care about this, if you want your children to live in a normal, faithful thing. But if you are kind of a Jew that many Jews will not even go to visit Israel. So of course, I'm not giving an advice to those kind of people. I mean, the Jews, I'm sorry to say, of New Israel Fund, I'm not, I'm picking up one of the names of many because I happen to know them personally, and I happen to know what they stand behind more than the average reader because I know the people. So, but the people of New Israel Fund are never going to come to Israel because why should they? They don't like Israel. I mean, even though they say they do. So it's never going to happen to be hermetically. Nothing is hermetic. I mean, even when I say about Britain being anti-Semitic, I'm talking about a trend. I'm not talking, not all Brits, not all Irish people are anti-Semitic. It's the majority. It's the majority who talks about it. It's the majority who thinks about it are. But so there's nothing hermetic. It's not going to happen like if the Jews who care move to Israel, it's not like, okay, Judaism will stop. Remember, we have a state of Israel because, sadly, because our grandparents were slaughtered and there was no place they could go to. Unlike you British people, you're on the other side of World War II events, but many other Jews, were on the problem. I mean, as you were slaughtered, so they had to run away. They were in DP camps, and they had nowhere to go, and nobody wanted to accept them, including Britain. Nobody wanted to accept them, including America. I mean, I don't have to tell you the story of the St. Louis ship, and many other stories. I mean, it's like the reason why we created Israel. I mean, Israel was created. Yes, legally it was a United Nations resolution, but outside of the legality, in practical, pragmatic terms, was because we have been forced to do that. Because before that, we said, why should we? We have beautiful years and years and years of history, of thousands of years of British Jewry, of French Jewry, of Argentinian Jewry, whatever, of Polish Jewry. We had over 3 million Jews. It's like, I mean, here, over 3 million Jews. There, we are 18 million Jews. But we came to Israel because we had no choice. And gladly, Israel existed. I mean, the land was there. I'm not going into politics, how many Arabs were there, how many whatever. There was a place that we could go, our parents or grandparents could go to. So Israel helped us. The existence of the land helped us. The existence of the land that is connected so much to Judaism, connected to the history of Judaism, connected, I mean, it's like, if you are religious or not, the Bible is by the end of the day, the book of the Jews, even if you are an atheist, as a historical book, it's an amazing work of literature, and it is defining the Jewish experience and the Jewish culture. And what is the Bible about? From beginning to end, it's about Israel. Our own culture. If you are a believer or not a believer, what is it? It's Israel. Open the Bible if you never read. Open the Bible. What is it about? It's about Israel. From beginning to end. What is the Passover? It's about Israel. We celebrate Passover. Even the non-religious. What was the Passover? The freedom from slavery going to where? To London? To New York? To Montevideo? Where? Where were you going?
Aren't we a people of the world, Tuvia? We're people of the world, right? We're a people of the world. And in the world,
we are very nice that we are people of the world, but we are people of the world. We have been also, we are the people of the world. We also have been the victims of the world. We are very nice people of the world. We also been the victims of the world.
Yeah, of course.
We are the scapegoat of the world wherever we go. If it's a Christian, if it's a Muslim, if it's an atheist, we have been the pariahs of the world. In one place we have succeeded. I'm not talking about politics of Israel, Netanyahu, I don't care. I'm saying, where have we succeeded as a people? Where do we shine today as a people? Where are we glorified as a people? Where are we going today with our heads up as a people? in only one country in the world, it's Israel. The Jewish tribe has only one place, only one country. So at least, I'm not saying you have to move there, at least understand how great it is that we have it. And if we lose it, that might be the end of us as Jewish people. Because one more fall, and it might be the end of us, not just in Israel, but in the rest of the world. So that's all I say. And it's a beautiful country, it's a beautiful state. Yes, we fight each other over there on right or left. Nobody agrees with the other, but that's the essence of Judaism. And yes, that's what Judaism is by the end of the day. And from that perspective, the nations of the world are right. You know, before Israel was born, what did they say in Europe? Go to the place where you come from. Now they say get out of Palestine, but what did they say before? Go to the place you come from.
So Tuvia, I've got
everybody knows that's
they didn't say it quite as politely as that, Tuvia, when I was growing up here. It was expressed in a somewhat different manner.
You know what I'm saying. I mean, of course, not as polite. You know, it's like nobody is as polite as me, not even the British.
Okay, so we have we must move on. We have one more question, and then I think we may wind up, and that's from Michael Fitzgerald. Michael, are you there? Michael? No?
Michael, where are you?
Michael? Okay. He needs to unmute. Michael? No? Okay, so we'll skip that then. I don't know where he is.
He's a nice Irishman. I really like him. I met him as my first interview.
This is why I wanted you to speak to him, because I thought he might be.
Sorry, I just wanted to say something, Tuvia. There are some questions that haven't been answered. Just to wind up, Sharon.
Yes.
A few questions. One, and I'll do three at a time quickly for Tuvia. When are you coming to the Netherlands? Do you live in Israel? And I think you've answered that. You travel quite a lot. Do we find these anti-Semitic horrors because we go looking for them? Says Julian Lazarus. I log the never-ending flow of Jew hate on Corbynist social media, which we all do. I know the far right is the same. What of the center? And so do we look for it? Do you think? Is that why? I don't think we do. And another question was this one at the top. Was there anti-Semitism also in the loyalist community or just in the Republican community? Not sure if you've answered any of that, but they're the questions.
As I said, I saw it in, okay, I'll answer it first of all. As I said before, I'm the last person looking for it. And as I said, and many people will disagree with me when I talk about Russia, that I did not find at present time anti-Semitism. And I was very happy to write a huge article about Russia. And now in the site in Germany, and like almost 6,000 words, and hardly mention anything the Jew. The only thing I mentioned is that I could not find anti-Semitism. It was such a pleasure to write such a big article without reporting of anti-Semitism. When I came to Britain, came to the UK, I did not come, as I said before, to find anti-Semitism. I didn't even think it existed there. I came to find theater and Brexit. And when I come to Netherlands, I don't know, whenever I invited or whenever somebody, I'm sorry to say that, but it's so simple, somebody has to pay for the book for me to come there, because otherwise it's terribly expensive to spend, even if you're a very rich person, to take 6 to 8 months out of your time and spend in a different country and staying in a hotel every day differently. You need somebody to finance it and somebody to promise that they publish it, which means you need a publishing company to do that. And sadly enough, in this book, for example, the Taming of the Jew, which is about Britain, I did have an unbelievable agent. I have an agent, the same agent, the Blair partnership. I had the same agent that represent J.K. Rowling's, you know, from the beautiful Harry Potter series. And you can't dream of a better agent than that agency. And they did try to have the book. They read the book and they liked it when it was a manuscript, and they tried to to shop it to British publishers. And I got their answers, and I was given their answers, and of course it was given in confidence, so I can't say names of publisher, but this is the main British publishers. Out of 15, only one of the publishers said that he did not connect with the book. The rest of them, the others, all connected in the book. So how great the book is, how shocking the book is, how unique voice the book is, etc., etc., etc. But no, sadly, we are not going to publish it. Some of them said because we don't think that books about anti-Semitism is financially viable. Another one said, we have already published a book about anti-Semitism, so we don't think we should publish again about book anti-Semitism. I mean, it's like the most unbelievable excuses, you know. So you really need a publisher to stand behind you and not only to pay it, but also to guarantee its publication. So yes, I will come to Netherlands, hopefully, but as a writer, only if I get a commission to do that. So because it's expensive, and you have to know that it's going to be published. So that's basically about that. And so no, and I didn't look for anti-Semitism, as I said before. Any other questions that I missed?
There is one question. There is a question that came through, and I think I mentioned it to you right at the outset. And that's from Graham Thompson, who lives in Barcelona. And what he said is, when tyranny begins to really kick in the West, will Israel take in Gentile refugees, and how many could it realistically take?
Okay, so yeah, it's a very, very interesting question. I mean, contrary to what people think in the West, and not only in the West and the East also, and many people in America also think so, because Israel features so much in the news. So he thinks that Israel is a major power and it's far bigger than the United States. No, Israel is a very, very small country. I mean, if you travel, you know, the width of the state, sometimes you can do it in 10 minutes. And from north to south, it will take you a few hours. You can do it in a day. If you just, I'm not talking by plane. So Israel is a very, very small country. So if something like this happened, I mean, Israel is simply limited. It cannot do that. I mean, if Israel had to take as much as possible, and then the state will be, what will they do with them? So in realistic terms, it's impossible. But does Israel have a non-Jewish? Yes, about 25% of the people in Israel, in proper Israel. I mean, I'm not talking now about the West Bank. I'm not talking about Gaza, of course. In proper Israel, about 25% of the people are not Jewish. So those people who don't know that, so there is the news for you. But 25% of Israel is not Jewish. They are either Muslim or Christian or whatever, all kinds of other things. So some of the biggest churches in the world and the most holy churches in the world, including, you know, are in Israel. So can Israel practically, in pragmatic terms, accept all of non-Jews? I don't think it's possible. Does Israel accept non-Jews? I mean, there are already about a quarter of its people who are not Jewish. And it is important that Israel be a Jewish state. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe the nation state is today not accepted in a modern kind of thinking. But again, I'm not frightened by modern kind of thinking. If there's thinking that is modern today is ancient tomorrow. The survival of Israel is as a Jewish state, because if Israel becomes a non-Jewish state, it will be as safe for the Jews in Israel as it is in Britain. So Israel should stay a Jewish state, but does Israel in general help other nations when they are in a bad shape, when they need help? I mean, if you just listen to the media, if you read in the media, forget pro-Israel or not Israel, you see in many trouble spots in the world, you see Israeli planes and Israeli doctors and surgeons going to all kinds of places. There's a nature disaster, you know, of non-Jews, of course, and they help them. So yes, I think, and I'm proud to see the Jewish community and the Jewish world and Jewish state doing this. You know, I think it's very, very important. We are part of the world. We are not outside of the world. We live in the world. We are part of the world, and the way we want to be treated is the way we want to treat others. So in pragmatic terms, I don't think Israel can take many, you know. Israel opened its gate to everybody according to law of return to the Jews, and not many of them are coming. So, but I don't know even if all the Jews decided to take advantage of the law of return and come to Israel, if they even could come there. You know, it's a limited place. So, but in general, I think practically not, theoretically yes.
Do you live there, Tuvia? Do you live in Israel?
Yeah. Say it again.
You live
I live all over. I live like every year I am in Israel, every year I am in New York, and every year I am in Germany. And I don't own apartment any of those places. I just rent. So yes, I am in Israel. I am in Germany. I am in the United States, and then I go to travel to other places, be it Russia, be it Ukraine, be it Poland, be it UK, be it wherever it is. I travel around the world a lot, my wife and I. So, but yes, I am every year in Israel. I try to make it at least a month or 2 or 3 to be in Israel. And my next book is going to be also about the Orthodox community in Israel. So I'm going to spend enormous amount of time in Israel, for the next book, and after COVID. Hopefully it's soon after COVID. And yes, so the answer is yes and no. And like as I said before, I'm never not, I'm here and there and there and here.
So Tuvia, we would like to thank you for spending this evening with us. I've read your book, I've read your other books. I found it a very, dare I use the word, exciting read, because it's very pacey. And you can get into it quite quickly. I have to say I've got 2 sheets here of questions I prepared, and fortunately they've all been covered. And I will also say to you, apropos what Jonathan Hoffman said about trying to find a venue for you, Amazine and I are quite used to being turned down for venues. This is what we do. We host those people that the rest of the Jewish community will not host. So we've been chased around London from 3 or 4 or 5 different venues per event. We've managed to host them, and we've managed now to host you as well. I have to say it's a lot easier on Zoom because nobody can block us. So it's been rather nice to have you and for you to speak so candidly about what you found. It's a very sad realization for me, particularly. Where apropos that last question from Graham Thompson, I think Graham's really referring to what's going on in our Western world at the moment with critical race theory, BLM, and cancel culture. And I think I started my activism standing up for the people of this country and asking them why they don't stand up for themselves, for their own Christian heritage. Because I realized that if they saved their Christian heritage, maybe Israel wouldn't get such a tough time. But they didn't seem to want to hear that. And so anti-Semitism just got worse and worse, and this is where we find ourselves today. So I'd like to just wrap up. I don't know if Ambrazine's got anything more to say, but I'd like to wrap up and say thank you so much.
And I thank you, Sharon. You have been a great, and your husband, David. I mean, you have been a beautiful couple and beautiful people, and everybody has participated from, at least from what I saw. And the names or the faces, it's been a pleasure to talk to all of you. And I am thankful to all of you to listen to me, to put your time and be here on this podcast or webinar, whatever you want to call it. And I'm thankful to everybody of you, to every one of you. I hope, even though it's terrible information, I hope you enjoy reading this book. And again, I am thankful to be there. I'm thankful specifically to you, John and David, for hosting this event, and for everybody, even if I agree with you or disagree with you, it's been a pleasure. And it's been a pleasure again to hear again this accent that I haven't heard for so long. It's such a pleasure to hear this accent, this dialect, this accent. I love it. I wish I would give everything I own to have this accent.
Well, our accent,
thank you so much.
It's South African. Our accent is not British.
Whatever, you know, all the accent. No, I'm saying about the general accent. I'm talking about you, all the people who have been here and talked today.
So thank you, and thank you to Isi for all her help in keeping in touch. Stay in touch with us. We look forward to your next book. Everybody who's still there.
Right next to me, Izzy is right here next to me. Can you see her? Put it yourself.
Say hi, Izzy.
Yeah, now you can see it.
Hi.
So everybody go on Amazon, buy the book, have a read, and hopefully we'll all meet in Israel next year. Take care.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Shalom, huh? And
Shalom. Good Pesach.
Happy Pesach.
Happy Pesach.
Thank you. Good. Happy Passover. Bye.